Check, check, check. Hello and welcome to the Talk to Me podcast. Today we have Sheyda, and give me a second. I think she's here. Oh, she's here. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you though.
You can't see me?
No.
This is weird. How do we do this?
It's technology. It's totally fine.
Oh, there we go. Start video. There. Can you see me now?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay. So let me just put the earplugs on so we don't have any echoing.
Sounds actually not bad.
Okay. I just want to do it so that there are no echoes and all when you're recording.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
To be on the safe side.
You know the drill.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to fix this and then I'm going to bring her up because otherwise she's going to get really upset.
Oh my God. Wait, who is she?
This is Chloe.
Sheyda, did you know Sheyda has a pug?
Yeah.
How have you? I haven't met her.
You guys haven't met her. No, it's because of COVID, she hasn't been out much. She hasn't met that many friends.
Oh my God, she's so cute. How old is she?
She's 1.5.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay, that explains it because the last we all of us hung out together was probably 2 years ago?
Exactly. So I got Chloe last year in January. So Jan 5th will be I've had her for a year.
Oh my God, she's adorable.
And then when I got her, she was 5 months old already.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so she's a crazy little pug, but she's just a pug, right? That's how pugs are.
Oh yeah. Keep her in the frame.
Yeah, she don't worry, she will be in the frame. She's such a diva that she is not gonna let go. So this is
Oh God, this is hilarious. I'm not gonna ask you any questions. We can just do this all day. Just look at Chloe.
Look at crazy Chloe. Yeah. So how have you guys been?
Oh, we've been fantastic. I think it's been a good good last few months. Got some time to reflect on what we were doing and
I know.
Cooking a lot. Cooking is it's been good. How have you been?
To be honest with you, I have to say I have been good, really grateful. I think it has been kind of a year that allowed you also to reflect, to be grateful for all the things you have.
Exactly.
And, at least your family members are all good and healthy. Everyone's healthy. And touch wood, no one has actually been my immediate family, nobody has been impacted by this. Yeah, I'm super worried about my dad in Sweden, but he's super, super careful. To the point he actually even purchased a car so he doesn't have to travel in public transit when he goes for his doctor's appointment and so forth.
That's relatable.
So I mean, he's above 80, so he has to be extra cautious. And I know if following the news, Sweden is really not in a good place right now.
Which is strange because this started off almost as good as, say, Singapore. I think they were doing really well, and then they had this whole no lockdown policy, I believe.
Yeah, they did that. They went with the no lockdown policy. Yeah.
So is it is it going bad now?
Well, yeah, the numbers are increasing to the point where they don't apparently. When I just saw, I kind of saw a snippet of a news in Sweden, and apparently they're running out of ICU rooms. So they're kind of trying to now place patients in the other Nordic hospitals, which means Finland, Norway, Denmark. I don't know, Iceland might be too far, but definitely maybe Norway, Finland, and Denmark. But with that said, the question comes whether those countries, let's say some Norway and Finland, who have kind of been contained the disease well, are they going to allow these, patients to come into their health facilities, right? Because don't forget, health facilities, you're going to have a lot of people who are way more vulnerable than others. To the disease. So that was the last thing I read about where Sweden is right now. So so not looking good, but
indoors.
Honestly, I have to say, it hasn't been the best of the years, but we have seen less of the family, and it's been really restricting, even trying to go out and just spend time with friends. It's just not doable, right? You just have to be cautious.
But Chloe makes it makes it all a little
totally.
better,
Like
right?
she's been literally like a blessing in disguise. Like
Hmm.
I had to take her out, right? So that was kind of an excuse to get out of the house, and she kept us busy. And as you can see, she's totally crazy. She just cannot help it. She makes you laugh. So she's been amazing. Like I think maybe because of her, we really haven't felt it.
I would definitely agree with that. Oh man, Sheyda, do you remember how we met?
Do you want me to take it through it, or you want me to take it to it? I know how we met. I'm just going to test you.
I think it's okay. All right, I'm putting on the spot. No, I think it's a very cool story in worlds colliding in how you meet out of nowhere, essentially.
Yeah, right.
If I'm not wrong, you were selling some sort of. You were moving away from where we live right now.
Yeah.
And you were selling furniture and stuff.
Yeah. So I was moving, and because when I was making the move, I was actually moving with my mom to come into this condo. What happened was I had a lot of extra furniture that I didn't want, and I already have a whole bunch in my brother's basement, so there really wasn't any more room to take things to his basement again.
Yeah.
So what I did, I actually set out these little ads on the lampposts in the neighborhood with my phone number, like moving sale, and I think that's how you and Shreya came over, and we just literally connected, and we chatted, I think, for an hour.
Yeah, even the first time not the first time we met. I think we met after that, and then we spoke for, I don't know, 4 hours, 5 hours. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But as the legend has it, we didn't buy anything.
No, I know.
So that was a very funny story. I was going to do a proper, like a formal introduction to the podcast. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like formal anyway. Why don't I ask you how we met? Always.
Awesome.
I think it's just about like being open to conversations.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you are too reserved, I think you push away some great friendships that can be, built upon, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, do you like your name? Like, who gave you this name? And
oh God, I love my name.
What does it mean, by the way?
Sheyda means madly in love. So it's a word that is used left, right, and center in Persian poetry. Because it kind madly of madly love. So it kind of describes the divine love. Like you can say that how the love, it's not your normal love.
Okay.
It's a divine love. It means like when you are in Sheyda with someone. Right?
Okay.
When you are in Sheyda with someone, it's like how Maulana was in love with his guru, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's the kind of a love. It's like it's a divine love. It's you can say the inhuman love.
It's the kind of love that can't be explained, I guess.
It cannot be explained. Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful name. I didn't know that's what it meant.
Yeah, and it's I love it because it comes in a lot of poetries. It comes in a lot of songs. So yeah.
Nice.
It has a very deep meaning to it.
Yeah.
And how I got it is an interesting story. It's like traditionally in Iran, obviously that's where I'm born. It's on the 6th day is when the naming ceremony happens of the child. And that's when you kind of get together with the elders in the family. And by elders, we did all these traditions, but we did them in a very informal way, you can say. This would, for example, be like a typical dinner at my grandparents where everybody were sitting. And this included my aunts and my uncles who were young at that time. And with my grandparents and my parents, obviously, my brother and sister. So officially, that would be the day where my grandfather would read the azan in my ear. And that's when I would officially become a Muslim.
Oh, so that's all on the 6th day itself.
That's on the 6th day. That's like the baptism. That's our baptism.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And usually an elderly does it.
Okay.
Right? So
it doesn't have to be a parent?
No, it's usually a grandparent.
Oh, nice.
It's always the oldest in the family. And because my father's father was not a religious man, and he wasn't alive at the time, and I don't think he would have done it anyway, because And those traces are totally, and those traces are totally now that DNA is coming to life in me, like totally anti-religion, a little bit anti-establishment, but that's really on my father's side. But on my mom's side, very conservative, more on the religious side, but not religious in a sense that what you would call fanatic, but more traditional, I would say.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we went there, and so once that the grandpa or my grandpa was doing it, reading it in my ear, then they said, so they give you one religious name.
Okay.
So you have kind of which is like one of the names from the Quran. So you get one of those names, and that's the name. And that usually in Iran they call it your in-ear name.
Really? Okay.
As weird as it sounds, it's your in-ear name. Because that is because obviously they are baptizing you to become a Muslim, so they have to give you a Muslim name, and we all have Persian names, right? So anyway, so as the discussion went, they said, okay, so what are you going to name her? And my dad wanted to call me Shirin.
Shirin?
Shirin.
That's also beautiful. What does that mean?
That means sweet.
Okay.
Sweet, that's Shirin, okay? And my youngest aunt, we come from a very outspoken family. She goes, why don't we call her Sheyda? I like Sheyda better. And that's how I got the name Sheyda.
That's what a story. What a proper, beautiful story.
So my aunt gave my name to me.
Okay. Where is she now? She's
in Iran.
Okay. So actually, that's where I want to go now. What's your story? It seems like we've spoken about this offline.
Yeah.
You have such a fascinating long journey, and take me back to where it all started. I know you were born in Iran.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this is long time ago, and I think people who are a little bit aware of, let's say, I would say recent history, because anything that has got to do with 40-50 years ago, I see it more as a recent history.
It is.
We had this amazing man who was our king, and both him and his father did amazing things for the country, but unfortunately the same mouth that they fed basically bit them.
Okay.
Right. So many youth at that time, they were all on full scholarships from the government, going to top schools in the US and England or France, wherever they wanted to. And he was paying them in full because he said, I'm going to educate the people because I need the specialists to come back and build the country. And what do? They betray him and they raise against him. So that's that side of it. With that said, my father always wanted to live in the US. This is when he got married to my mom from the very early stages. Like it had nothing to do with the revolution. He always wanted to have that American dream life.
Yeah.
So that was always his intention. So with that said, finally, we moved to the US. And we settled in a small town in Arizona called Tempe, which is like 20 minutes from Phoenix. It's like a suburbs of Phoenix, I believe. Anyway, we settled there, and then my father came back to Iran to kind of wrap things up. And during all this time, I think the revolution has already happened, right? So things are, all this commotion and all are already happening. And so this is late 70s. So by the time my dad was ready to come, we couldn't do anything because the hostage situation happened. And I think for those who have seen the movie Argo,
I have, yes.
know the story. That is real.
Just thinking about
That's
it.
real.
Yeah.
So this is what happened. When that incident happened, we were in the US and my father was in Iran. So our green card applications got chucked out because of the political situation that happened, right? So no Iranians could actually apply for green cards anymore. Not to mention those who already had the green cards, they got their green cards revoked as well. So with that said, we're kind of stuck here. And my father was back home in Iran. My mom and 3 children. My mom was like barely 30, I would say, at this time, with 3 kids stuck in the US. So we decided to go back to Iran and see if we can find another country to go to.
Wow.
Right? Because this situation obviously didn't help us in any, because my father couldn't come and join us. And so what we did, we go back and as soon as we were there, like the summer is fun. We met the family after a year. I had totally forgotten how to speak Farsi. I could barely.
Seriously?
Yeah, I had totally forgotten how to speak Farsi just with being in the US for 1 year.
And that is your mother tongue?
Yeah, Farsi is my mother tongue, yes.
Okay.
But obviously things picked up, you start talking to family and so forth and so forth. And that fall, the war broke out.
Oh my God.
Between Iran and Iraq. So the war broke out. And this means like the borders got shut down. So you could not leave Iran legally anymore. And it was way too early I would say, both in the war and the revolution for all the, what right now they're called human trafficking, but we call them smugglers, that would actually allow you to illegally leave Iran, and it could either go to Turkey or you would go to Pakistan. So because these were the only two countries where Iranians did not require visa to enter.
Okay.
So these would be the best first places to run to. So anyway, after 3 years, for some reason, and I think this goes back to, again, knowing the modern history, Khomeini, who then became the supreme leader, and obviously this first 3 years with the war, with the revolution, there were a lot of enforcements they were doing that people didn't want. They had already, massacred and executed a lot of people who had risen against them, what you could call the opposition or the guerrilla, I would say the guerrilla teams that were, they also helped these were the people who helped to bring him to Iran, and then he started executing them.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of these. So all these things were happening. Then they enforced the hijab, which a lot of women, again, fought against, but they couldn't do anything. So a lot of things, all these things were happening. So what he'd said is like, if you don't want to be here, and I don't want educated people in Iran, leave the country. I don't need you guys.
Okay.
So that was a political move from his side, because he held on to the poor, to the uneducated, to the illiterate, and we can see where obviously that has led,
of course,
right?
Just they can be easily brainwashed.
Exactly. So it became a scape of all the brains. So everybody who had a bit of a sense, so for some reason, then the newspaper, the daily newspaper, started printing the applications for passports.
Ah, okay.
So it was actually in the newspaper. Now, the story goes that my dad bought 5 newspapers because he wanted to fill in 5 forms, because we were 5 in the family. So anyway, we filled in these forms, and my mom went to the passport office to get the passports. And because my mom's uncle, like maternal uncle, was a police commissioner. He had obviously, and my mom's family, they kind of, because of the relation to the army and the relation to, the police force, they know a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of know the names. Yeah. So he looked at my mom's passport and said, "Are you the niece of so-and-so?" My mom said, "Yeah."
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah. So the police officer that was sitting there knew my mom's uncle.
Oh, wow.
In those days, people were still honest and people were still good. And they hadn't fallen for this, what is happening in the communist countries, to tell on each other.
Okay.
The people that were sitting there were still not brainwashed, or they were not still, I'm not saying there weren't some of them in there, but there were still entities that were trying to help the others. So he said, don't do the mistake of applying for 5 different passports just because all your children are under 18.
Okay.
This used to happen in olden days. Children under 18 did not have individual passports. They would be in the passports of one of the parents.
Okay. So like a guardian.
Exactly. So he said, don't do that. All your children are under 18. Put them all in your own passport and just apply for one passport, because what's going to happen is you might get your passport, your son may not get it, the other daughter might get it, the other daughter will get it. So you want to make sure just to get out. And because my brother was kind of coming of age, which means he had to go for military service. So it was crucial that we took him out. Okay, there you go. And she just brought her little bone that she's gonna. And there she is. So Anyway,
Perfect.
by that time we got we got our passports. They came through. And interesting enough, I remember this hot summer day, and I remember all these hot summer days where we would actually go and get all our papers and documents translated and certified, and all of that, and then getting this and getting that, all the things you need to leave a country, but not only just leave, but also kind of pave way for opportunities to kind of seek residency in other countries.
Yeah.
So with that said, I remember the day we sat one whole afternoon in the car, me, my brother, and my sister. We were not allowed to get out of the car. My parents were in the Lufthansa ticket office. And I don't know, it's the same thing in India, right? You actually would go to the airline ticket office to buy your tickets, right?
Like physically buy the, yeah.
Right. So my father purchased 5 tickets. And obviously he stayed back, but the 4 tickets were definitely there. And this was our trip. It was Tehran, Istanbul, Istanbul, Frankfurt, Toronto.
Jesus.
So our aim was to come to Canada.
What is it, about 10 days? This flight?
No. This was So this, I think in those days, what you did, you bought the ticket open.
Yeah.
But because this was your entire trip, you would just call because you'd already paid, you prepaid the ticket. And my father worked in the airline for the longest time.
Yeah.
So he knew how the drill is. So then what you would do is you would simply just make the booking accordingly.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because you already purchased the trip. But then I don't know what the rules and regulations are. But what you did, you buy the entire trip. And then you have obviously we did know our departure date from Tehran, but we didn't know the other departure dates, and they had to be kind of TBC, right? And I remember what happened was this was a very tense time in Iran, right? We didn't want the neighbors to know we are actually leaving the country.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because we didn't know who would tell on us. Although we were still doing something legal, you didn't know, because you don't know when they were going to come and arrest you and take you in for whatever reason, right?
Also because, say, for example, if your neighbor is not able to go, there's also that level of sort of like, why is someone else moving on in their life?
I think it was more that anti-revolution. That was more the brainwash than anything else. That was really more the brainwash, I would say. So what happened was we kind of pack things and, all these suitcases that we had. And I remember this very clearly. We went to my grandmother's house. We left everything, all the suitcases and everything were there. But we spent the evening having dinner at my older aunt's house as to kind of say goodbye to the whole family. And I clearly remember, because it was war, they used to cut electricity at a certain point of time to save electricity, and also because they wanted to black out the city because of bombings, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, as we were saying goodbye, and when we came out on the middle of the street, the lights went. So here we are standing, it's like pitch dark, you can't see anything. And we have to say our last goodbyes to everyone. So I remember I was like clinging on to my cousin's sister, who was 2 years younger than me, or who is 2 years younger than me, and saying our goodbyes. And then they shushed us into the car because you couldn't make drama in the middle of the street because you didn't know, right? And don't forget, we're talking about a country that was in curfew after a certain point of time.
Yeah.
And, literally a bit like North Korea feel to it, you can say. In those days, Tehran was very much like that. We had a lot of curfews. We had a lot of lights going out. There was a lot of military stops with sandbags and, people with machine guns coming and checking inside the car if you were driving past curfew time.
It's like a proper war-torn nation.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And anyway, so what happened was then we came to the airport, and I think we arrived at the airport like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was very, very early because you had to go through all this security check that was very unusual. And again, as I said, this was a time where good people still worked in the authorities.
Yep.
And we had like 5 American-sized suitcases. And when I say like 6 American-sized suitcases, and by that I mean they're like 40 kilos, 50 kilos you can put in each. Like these were huge suitcases, not your 20 kilo.
Not the massive. 23, yeah.
Yeah, these were like massive. You could put 2 people in them. So we come to the airport, and we knew that there were some regulations. You could only carry a certain amount of gold. You could only have like $500 per passport. These were all the regulations that were there. Anyway, so we come and these guys are literally like looking through your things by their hands.
Wow.
Like nothing is going through the scanner. They're literally like looking and, doing this to all your luggage. And then you had to repack everything. So I remember this. I can't remember the guy's face, but I do remember he was a younger guy, maybe in his 20s at the time. He asked, this is how careful you had to be. So you kind of have to look at this, like if they could read his lips, because there were all these guys walking around there, he would be in trouble. And if we would be the wrong people, we could bust him.
Wow.
So there's a lot of trust that had to be there. So as he was looking down, his eyes down, I remember this, his gaze was down and he's looking through our items. He told my mother, take off your son's, because my brother was wearing like a pendant, like a gold pendant. And it's very traditional in Iran for boys to wear like a gold pendant. Anyway, so he said, ma'am, take off your son's gold chain and pendant. They're going to take it from him because boys are not allowed. So that was really nice of him, right? So as he said that, then my brother goes to the bathroom, I think, takes it off. And then my mom connects his chain to my sister's chain.
Oh my God.
And then my sister has got this super long chain with his pendant on it as well.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so we finally go through. And they obviously, then the ladies who checked you before going on board were all these regime people, like in, very aggressive, very impolite. And my sister Michelle says, this lady told me, show me your gold chain. My sister was like, I kept pulling it and this thing never ended.
Are you serious? Like what you see in magic shows.
She's like pulling it out, trying to show it to her. Well, anyway, we arrived in Turkey. That was the first country we could come to. And we kind of made it in time because 6 months after the state, my brother would be eligible and he couldn't leave Iran legally. So this is back in August 1983.
Oh, wow.
So we left, right? And we came
back.
How
old were you?
I would say 8 going on 9.
Oh, my God.
So
I'm by the way, before you move forward, I'm nervous right now because I'm picturing that journey to the airport. And
that was
flight.
A scary one. That was really scary.
I'm stressed out because I've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Argo, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm scared.
I kind of like every time I watch any movies that show like how the Jews ran away from Nazi occupied countries by any terms, that really reminds me of my experience. And the thing is that Iranians were not very vocal about our experiences. To be honest with you, if people would be vocal, there are as many scary, horrifying stories.
Can imagine. Yeah.
Like literally equal. Like it's unbelievable. Like, this is off, we're taking this off track, but my aunt, the same aunt that gave my name to me, her brother-in-law was among the guerrillas.
Oh, wow.
He was a guerrilla, right? And like what obviously they suspected. So this is after, obviously, during the pre-revolution and during the revolution, these guys were all good for them because they helped them to remove the Shah. But after, they didn't want to have anything to do with these guys because they felt they might go through the same thing, right? So it's a very true thing, right? So you shouldn't really do not deceive someone because the person you are deceiving for, that's the first person that's going to kill you. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, this is a Hollywood movie. Jesus.
So what they did, imagine like, how they show in the Nazi movies, people come and make a raid in your house, right? All of a sudden you have people coming with machine guns and, both in private and in uniform. And they actually raided my aunt's house like 3 or 4 times. And they were talking about men coming with machine guns and pointing at them because they were looking for clues for her brother-in-law because they were searching for, he was wanted because he was one of the guerrilla members, right? They couldn't find him, obviously. He luckily escaped. Yeah. But even now, it sends a chill down my spine.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a fear.
But it's that memory. It's still etched.
Exactly.
I don't think it'll ever go away from the memory.
No, it doesn't.
It's-
It kind
it
of,
cannot.
yeah, it's in you. And, you know, the 3 years that I went to school, you were always reminded, you do not talk to anyone. You don't tell people we listen to music. You don't tell people we have
really?
videos. We don't tell people we play playing cards. These were all illegal. Like, this could actually put my parents in jail.
Oh, wow.
So imagine having that
My
fear
God.
that you have to, everything what happens at home, you cannot tell anyone, like not even your friend in school. Right? You can't. It's forbidden, like totally forbidden. You just don't. But anyway, coming back to the journey, we finally came to Turkey, and our goal was to come to Canada because my uncle was here, my mom's younger brother, and he actually came here when we were in the US. Funny enough, I think it was 78 or 78 or 79. He moved to Canada. And so he had even got us an invitation letter, a formal letter of invitation from the Hamilton mayor.
No, really?
Yeah, that's supported to allow. Basically, he was inviting his sister and family to come. In those days, you know how you need an invitation letter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So my uncle's was very solid. It was from the mayor of Hamilton.
That seals the deal.
Yeah, we were. That's what we thought.
Okay.
Anyway, don't forget, at this time and point, there were no open embassies in Iran.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? So you had to come to the closest country and then go to that embassy.
Okay.
And don't forget, this is the time where there is no internet, there is no Google. It's the information, whatever that particular authority tells you or whatever, you just know. So we came to Turkey, and within a couple of weeks, my mom and I think my brother, they decided to go. So we are in Istanbul, and all the embassies are in Ankara, which is the capital, the political capital. It's like Delhi, Mumbai, right? Istanbul is like Mumbai.
Yeah.
And, okay, sorry.
That was a sneeze, right?
Yeah. Just sneezing. She just choked on her bone, I think.
There that's what I thought. That's why I checked.
She's it's okay. So we were in Istanbul, and then my mom and my brother made the trip to Ankara to apply for the Canadian visa. So when they went there, they said, oh, the Ankara Canadian embassy only issues visa to people with Turkish passport, meaning Turkish citizens. Because you are Iranian citizens, you have to go to the so-called High Commission and apply for the visa. High Commission of Canada at that time was in Belgrade, Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Not in Damascus, Syria, as it is now. It was in Belgrade. And don't forget, we're talking about the era where communism still existed. So the entire Eastern Europe were communist. So all these are happening. These events took about 3 to 4 months. So this was not like, things that happen quickly.
Yeah.
So my mom, they come back and they decide to make the trip to Belgrade. Now, my mom decides to go on this trip on her own because she didn't want to take the kids with her just in case anything would happen. Because again, the fear of a communist country is always there, right? So she takes the trip to Belgrade, and that's another story. That's literally another movie. My mom's trip there, because she arrives there obviously barely, and she doesn't speak their language. They don't speak English. So
oh my God.
tough communication.
Yeah.
And if people recall, the Winter Olympics of 1984 took place in Belgrade. So if you go back in history. Now, when my mom arrives, she arrives at a city which is pitch dark.
Oh my God.
Because they were taking out electricity because they were saving electricity for the Olympic Games.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So when my mom arrived at the hotel, she kind of books the hotel close to the High Commission. So she only had to walk or just a bus ride or something. And so when she arrives there, literally like movies, the lady gives her like a candle, checks her in, gives her a candle and takes her up these stairways and checks her into her room. And my mom was so scared that night, she actually didn't sleep. She sat dressed on her bed, literally like a movie. She sat dressed on her bed with a chair behind her door till morning. And as soon as she saw a ray of light, she was out and on her way to the High Commission.
Okay.
So
let me breathe. Just give me a second. Jesus. I did not have a clue about this. We haven't gone into this much detail even when we spoke.
Yeah.
You know, we met.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go on.
No,
I'm okay. I'm
no.
fine.
So anyway, so she comes
Huh.
down. She takes the whatever mode of communication.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Even she's stressed out.
I think she's barking at the smoke that's coming out of the pool house over there. It's okay, baby.
Smoke,
it's okay.
you said?
Yeah, because we have like a pool.
Oh,
like
okay.
The clubhouse.
Oh, okay.
It's like a round kind of a thing, and it has like there's a smoke coming out.
Exhaust
I think that
kind of stuff.
Yeah, exhaust.
Okay.
And
Okay.
she doesn't like when leaves blow. She doesn't like that either because we have some plants in the balcony, on the balcony. So anyway, she goes there and she takes her turn and she sits and she has her, all her documents and papers. And my mom said they keep calling all these Yugoslavian names that end with an itch. So this, and then finally they call her. So when she goes there and she sits with the visa officer, she presents her papers. And basically at this point in time, we had to be very careful how we presented ourselves. So we could not ask for permanent residency at this time.
Okay.
Right? Because it was, I think, out of the question. Like what we were trying to do is like, let us just get a visiting visa, land in a country, and then maybe seek asylum there.
Okay.
So that's what, because obviously being a country at war, you were not eligible for permanent residency for some reason.
Got it.
Something like that. In those days, it was whatever it was. Whenever a country is at war, usually going to another country becomes tougher. I'm talking about back in the 70s and the 80s, right? Things are different now.
Yeah.
And, being a refugee and seeking asylum was a huge thing. Like the first thing you thought about of being an asylum and being a refugee, you would always think about tents. And it's very unfortunate that I'm seeing that now.
That's the image I have.
But that's because that's what's happening now. Because I know later on in the story, you will see that we did seek asylum. I did not go through that. I did not live in a tent. Right? So, I think maybe because depending also on the number of people that leave, like, we're talking about this sea of people who are leaving Syria. Obviously, maybe the countries they're coming into, that's the only way they can contain them. Right? Or maybe these people simply do not have the funds to rent a place. Because a lot of Iranians who left Iran, whether you lived in Pakistan for some time in Turkey, they rented apartments. They lived in hotels. Like we lived in a hotel, right? I'm not talking about a 5-star hotel, but we lived in like a hotel. That was in a residential area. And the hotel was all filled with Iranians. So my mom goes there and she's at the embassy. The visa officer says, okay, so hello, welcome, all that conversation. And he goes like, so why do you want to go to Canada now in the middle of school year? Obviously, she can't say, well, my country's at war, I'm not there. He said, unfortunately, we do not grant visa to Iranians because you have a war. Red stamp. Wow. They didn't issue the visa. Because when a country is at war.
This is still in Istanbul, right?
No, this is in Belgrade.
Belgrade, okay.
My mom is in Belgrade, but we are still in Istanbul.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So she basically had just said this other family, Iranian family, just look out for my kids, right? While I'm away. And anyway, so that was the thing. They said, no, your country is at war. There is a risk that you're going to seek asylum if you enter Canada. So we're not going to grant that. So that's it. We got a rent stamp in our passport and we weren't granted a visa. So my mom came back. And I remember on this trip, I still have this doll, by the way. I had asked my mom to get me a doll.
Are you serious?
My mom had purchased me a doll.
And you still have it?
I still have it. I don't have it here. It's somewhere in the basement. But it's like a tiny little doll. She's really cute. She's got short blonde hair.
Yeah.
And she has like a knitted sweater and a knitted pair of shorts. Like super cute.
Well, you had your priorities set.
Yeah, definitely, to do that. So she came back, and I remember when she arrived, we were super excited. So I kind of, I saw my mom getting off the taxi, and then I leaned out from the, the room window, and I was like waving at her, so excited, And then the first thing she showed me, she took the doll out from the bag, and she said, "I got you the doll."
How adorable is that? Like she had so much going on in her head, and she still remembered.
You know what? Sometimes I look at things and I look back at things and I feel like how lightly we surpassed all these difficult hurdles. For some people, they become extremely traumatic and, they really cannot
PTSD.
go past them. It becomes anxiety. And I really don't have any. We just had to do it. It was like, you got to do this in order to get on to the next step, get on to the next stage. And so anyway, we were here at this hotel, not to mention the nightmares we had at the hotel, because don't forget, a lot of people a lot of young boys that had not done their military service, obviously they didn't want to send, because, everybody knows this is a fact, that they would recruit teenagers.
Yeah.
They would give them training for 2 days and they would send them off on mines. That's what they were for. They were just to go and set off on the mines. And then they would they would go on the mines and then the real troops would come and do the fighting.
Jesus.
So nobody wanted to send their young kids to the war because they knew they would not come back. So a lot of families who could afford it through the human smugglers had smuggled their boys out.
Oh, wow.
So in our hotel, and what that means is there are a lot of guys that are living in Turkey illegally because they don't have a legal passport, right? So, but they were still living at the hotel. They were moving around, just waiting for something to happen that could take them out. And these were the people who were candidates to leave the country with a false passport.
Oh.
Yeah, because you haven't left the country legally. How else are you going to leave Turkey, right? So you either stay in Turkey, which it wasn't really the best bet because there was a huge chance of them sending you back. There was no way you could seek asylum or anything. But anyway, so these guys were at the hotel, and from time to time, this was really comic. From time to time, we would have undercover Turkish police officers come into the hotel.
Oh my God.
To arrest illegal immigrants. And if these young boys would get arrested, it would literally be like that movie from the 70s, that famous movie from the 70s. What is it called? Where this young American is arrested and he's tortured. Like, the Turkish prison is not a fun thing to be a part of.
No prison, I'm assuming.
I would say Turkish.
Not Turkish.
Not Turkish, no. So I remember some of these boys would be young and teenagers, and some of them would be slightly elderly. Now, one day, and imagine like you are like an 8-year-old and you still had to be smart enough to not look towards the way the boys had run, or even go up the stairs where they are, or pretend that you know something, have an eye contact with the police officer so he could start questioning you. These were all these almost silent rules that you knew.
Just unspoken.
You just knew you can't. And one day these guys came in the middle of the day, which was kind of unexpected because usually they would come at nighttime and we knew it was them because they would be in suits, really nice suits and tie and black sunglasses, like 8 o'clock at night.
Oh my God.
Talk about giving themselves away. But anyway, one of these days they came in the middle of the day and it was like everybody would tell each other they're here and people would actually run. Yeah. And they would hide. And I remember one of the guys, he had found a hiding place, which was in the elevator engine room, or he would hide up there.
What?
A couple of them would hide in there. Yeah. And they had their own little hiding places. But one of these guys, unfortunately, he was, at the time, we all used to get together in the lobby and talk. That was our common living room. And one of these young guys, he didn't get a chance to escape.
Oh my God.
And I remember this very clearly. He was talking to my mom. I think he was reading a book or something. But the way they were sitting is like my mom was sitting on the sofa. So their backs were to each other. I remember this. Their backs, the way the seats were, their backs were to each other. But it was almost like a tete-a-tete. So my mom was, so the only thing I remember my mom was telling him is that just stay calm and just talk to me. Let's pretend we're having a conversation. So she's saying all this to him in Farsi. Yeah. And I remember this poor guy was really scared.
course.
But my mom kept talking to him, and they just kept on having this conversation. And then the police officers left.
And he was fine then?
And he was fine then, yeah.
Okay, I'm so anxious. I'm going to take a little washroom break. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, sure.
Jesus. I'll be back in a second.
Sure. So it's so okay. Funny that I can actually laugh about it now, but
you can laugh about it now, but I can't even imagine what that day or those few months would have been.
Yeah.
And okay, so what did I've now that I've regained my composure, what did your mom say to that guy?
I think they were just, the only thing she was trying to tell him is like just trying to keep him calm. Like they really weren't having any kind of a conversation as such. It was just, all he kept saying is I remember her, he's looking this way, don't look up, don't look nervous, just talk to me, pretend that you're talking to me, stay calm, you know, and I think basically just trying to calm him. So anyway, that
picture is not leaving me because because we've any films, any movies, any shows that we've seen, this is a very, like, you see that on TV and it gives you chills, and me listening to this live is absolutely insane.
So that's why I so relate to to these movies, especially during, you know, the World War II movies where you know, they show how people are going through all this, you know, whether it's a Nazi or the Nazi, you know, sympathizers or whoever. Like, I really live that. And that's why I so relate to it. Like, when I hear stories about, you know, obviously, luckily, Iranians weren't as badly treated, you know, we didn't have the concentration camps, so we were not. But I feel like we are going through that the Iranian race is going through another type of genocide, right? Like we're going through this cultural genocide through the new regime, and they really don't care about the Iranians as such, and they are being killed left, right, and center. And it's another kind of a genocide. Yes, it may not be as the way the Nazis did it, but it seems to be a systematic one that's going on right now. But again, that's a completely different topic.
Yeah.
So anyway, with everything said and done, we were kind of in the middle of, so what do we do now? What do we do now? And in the midst of it all, my mom decides to send me to school.
Are you serious?
Because we didn't know what to do. We're talking about, by this time, we have, I think, reached October. And I was obviously 8 or 9 at the time, and she didn't want me just to be at home, you know, in the hotel room, you know, cooked up there or just playing with kids. And so she decided she found a Persian school in Istanbul. It's an older Persian. Apparently it used to be there again. These are all thanks to our king. He built all this. You know, even all the embassies that we have everywhere in the world, anything, this was all him. Nothing by these guys. And so there was a school. We found that school, and she, you know, admitted me to school, and I had to go. And I was going to school because we didn't know how, because we came with the hope of, you know, obtaining a visa to Canada and make that trip to Canada. Now that didn't happen. So it was like, okay, so it seems like we need to sit back and, you know, regroup and rethink what the next step is going to be. So she put me in school. I was like, why are you putting me in school? Why didn't you put my brother and sister in school? So anyway, I go to school.
Why not, right?
All right, that was the youngest one. So she apparently had, you know, the upper hand on me. So I went to school. And with that, so we went on with life. And till the time, I remember there was a Swedish reporter that came to visit our hotel. And he was making a story on you know, Iranian and Iraqi refugees.
Okay.
But he seemed to be more focused on the Iranian refugees that had left Iran, and they had all sought shelter in Turkey. So that was his story.
Okay.
And I remember this, you know, Swedish guy coming to the hotel, this tall, the Swedish people are extremely good looking. I mean, very, very good looking people. So remember, he had this really nice blue eyes, and he had like a blondish, longer hair. He was tall and broad shouldered. I think he was wearing a navy suit, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, it's all a blur. And obviously no tie, but I think he was wearing some kind of a suit at the time. And so he comes and he sits in the lobby and he starts talking to people, just wanted to hear their stories, and going back to, how did everyone leave? Because everybody had one story, because everyone had left in a different way, especially those who had traveled through the mountains, which meant they had to travel at night, sleep at day, pretending to be sheeps under sheepskins. These were the journeys that they had to take to actually leave.
All of that happened.
All of that actually happened, yeah.
Like, it's not fiction.
No. No. My own cousin brothers came that way.
Oh. Okay. Sorry, go on. I'm going to keep interrupting. That's just going to be how it's going to go. Okay. So keep going.
So he came to our hotel, and because we had lived in the US, my brother spoke, his English was good. So obviously he was the only among the few ones who could actually have a conversation with this journalist and answer his questions and kind of translate as the other people were trying to communicate with him as they were telling their stories. And so as we were talking about it, and he goes, why don't you guys, like, he literally looked at the crowd, and we're talking about like 100 people sitting in the lobby. Like, the lobby was packed, because that's what we did every night. It was like living in this big house. Everybody had their rooms, but the kids used to play during the day, like, me being the kids. The teen boys used to hang around and talk and chat and do all these things. And every evening we used to get together in the lobby, and there used to be a couple of people who had good voices. They would sing, they would be like, dancing. So we made the best out of it, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, I'm just going to sit up here so she can sleep on my lap. Here we go.
Yeah,
Here we
no
go.
worries.
She was. So anyway, so he said, why don't you guys seek asylum to Sweden? And as I told you, just the word asylum and refugee sounded like such a taboo that it was like unimaginable. Like, how could we do that? Like, that means like maybe we have to live in tents or, or so that was really the worry. Sorry, I don't think she can balance herself.
Oh, no worries.
So he said that, and that was the end of that conversation, and he left.
He gave you the direction.
He somehow, again, we didn't consider it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We didn't consider this. We were just like, what is he talking about? Like, seeking asylum in Sweden? Like, that's way too cold. We're not going to live in North Pole, right? Anyway, with that said, when he left, he was there during the daytime. When he left, 9 o'clock at night, we had a knock on our door. 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We had a knock on our door. And don't forget, all this time, we had to be super, super careful.
Yeah.
Because we were among the very few people with a legal passport. Now, this passport was worth thousands and thousands of dollars that probably human smugglers would want to steal to allow other families that they want to help to exit from Turkey. So we had to be very careful with where we had our passport, where we had our belongings. So despite the fact, this was bad times, right? Because don't forget, a lot of people had left Iran illegally, right? And not everybody had a legal passport in hand.
Yeah, of course.
Don't forget this.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a legal passport in hand, you cannot leave you cannot leave Turkey to go to another country. And it would be better to put a false visa in a legal passport. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It would make it less suspicious. Anyway, so there is a knock on our door, and we're like wondering, who is it at this time? So it was one of the bachelors at the hotel. And he was from south of Iran. So he was slightly darker with curly hair and, so I remember him. He was the first guy I saw, like a Persian girl I saw wearing white shorts. It's like, why is this man wearing white shorts? Anyway, but he came to a room and he said, he basically addressed my mom and said, "Can I just come in? I think I have a way for you guys to go."
Oh my God. Okay.
So, and he said, "Keep it super secret," right? So all hush hush. And then another thing is, like, this is my mom with 3 kids. We don't want to have a stranger man coming into my mom's to our room either, because then it would create gossip, right? Anyway, so he comes in, making sure nobody sees him coming in, and then he goes, "I think I know a way you guys can go to Sweden."
Oh, come on.
And we were like, so first of all, we had to bring my brother. One of the things he had actually brought with him was the atlas. He had a word atlas. So we opened it up to see where Sweden even was on the map. So that's how little we knew about this country.
Yeah.
So my mom, we open up the atlas and we see where it is. It's like, oh my God, it's all the way up here. And with that said, so he tells us, he said, "I have lived in Sweden for 1 year." Okay, this goes all back to pre-revolution, right? When the Iranian young people had all these scholarships and they could go and study anywhere in the world they wanted, for all supplied by the government.
Yeah.
So he was one of those people who apparently got a scholarship. He had studied in Sweden for 1 year.
Okay.
He said, "When I lived there used to be boats that used to come to Sweden from these, like these Lithuania and all those countries, like all these northern Eastern European countries." Now, the reason why he said that is because if you went and you sought asylum through air, that means you arrived at the airport of the country and you sought asylum, you would be deported
and sent back to Iran.
Sent back to wherever you came.
Wherever you came from.
Wherever you came from. And we already had a case of one of the young guys that had been deported from Sweden.
Is that someone you knew, or?
Someone that used to live at our hotel. So he was, again, a bachelor guy who had left Iran illegally.
My God.
Or legally, whatever. So he flew. He came from a well-off family. So they paid a smuggler. And when you pay a smuggler, it was literally a gamble, because the guy would still take the money from you, whether you would get the asylum or not, because he had brought you to destination. So a lot of people made a lot of money here. But they also saved millions of lives. So I don't want to criticize them for that, because they did save a lot of people. Yes, they made money, but they also saved many lives.
Which is fair. Anyway, I mean, money
which is fair. You know what? It is what it is. And this
I think it's still noble.
It is, right? They saved so many lives.
Exactly.
And then you go back to the stories, and people did that for the Jews during World War II as well. You would disguise them, tell them to color your hair, do this and do that, just so they wouldn't look. Or especially when they created false IDs for them, they would do these things for them. Anyway, this guy used to live in our hotel. So he flew from Turkey to Sweden, and he landed in Stockholm, and he sought asylum at the airport, and they took him to prison and they wouldn't accept him. So, but the funny part was, when he called our hotel, he said, "This place is like a 5-star hotel. They asked me what I want for breakfast."
In the prison?
In the prison, yeah. We're talking about Sweden, right? So till they would anyway, they deported him back, but they deported him to Turkey, not to Iran. I can't remember what happened to him, but I remember that was our vision of Sweden. And this goes back to even everyone else at the hotel, that if you go to Sweden, they're going to deport you. So what is this reporter talking about, saying that come to Sweden, they will accept you? Now, the rule of thumb apparently is that, or was at the time, if you want to seek asylum in any country, you have to land through what you would call through land. You can't, if you not arrive, not air, because the airport is considered international ground and it's not land.
So not even sea then?
Well, sea still is land, right?
Sea is true.
You land. So airport would not be considered because it's international and they can't deport you. So you cannot seek asylum. So the joke always used to be, because the word land and earth or soil are the same thing. You have to land in the soil. So we always used to joke that this guy who got deported, he should have just jumped into one of the big plants and said, I'm in the soil now, so you can't deport me. Imagine, like, everybody's going through these things and we still had time to make all these jokes. And
that's what kept you going.
That was kept us going, I guess. And everybody else were in the same boat. So that was, I think, one of the biggest support systems, because literally each and every individual at the hotel, we were all in the same boat. We were all going through the same stress, because everybody were trying to get out somehow. And we used to have a tradition at the hotel, when a family or an individual, when they had all the paperwork done and they were actually leaving to that next destination, the entire hotel used to come and stand outside and then to clap their hands as their taxi left for the airport.
Oh, wow.
It was a victorious moment, right? Like they finally, let's say, got their visa to US, or they finally, or these were a lot of people who had, green card applications that then had been demolished, like how ours got, right? But we really didn't follow up with the US at that time. And, or they had green cards and they were trying to revive it.
Okay.
So a lot of people were also going to US that way. Anyway, so this was a tradition. Like whenever a family left for that final destination, everybody at the hotel would come and kind of send them off.
Bid them farewell, yeah.
Bid them farewell, send them off, and huge, clapping.
Of course.
So this guy, so going back to the story that he said, I think I know this way where you can go. And he started showing us. And he said, there are tourist boats that enter Sweden from Poland.
This is getting deeper. The plot is really thickening here.
Getting deep, right?
Okay.
So he introduced us to this, and God bless him. I don't know where he is in the world, wherever you are, bless you, because you are the one who showed us the way.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, we would not have, I don't know what would have happened. So he said, I think if you go to Poland and from this town called, I can't even remember it, but whether it was Gdynia or Gdansk, these are harbor cities.
In Poland?
There, in Poland, yeah.
Okay.
They are boats, like passenger boats that go to Sweden. And I know that they don't ask for visa.
What?
Okay.
That's
so here we are.
inside
literally
information.
Yeah, so because obviously maybe he had been on the boat, we don't know, but he said, like, I don't think they check for visa, or they're not that strict with it. So with that said, we made the decision to go. And here, Sahil, we're talking about nobody has taken this route.
And there's
right,
she agrees, trust me, she agrees.
Yeah.
And there's no source of information, there's no Google, nothing.
No.
You're essentially flying blind.
Totally flying blind. So what we decided to do, we purchased tickets to Warsaw, which is Poland's capital.
Okay.
And by the time this is happening now, we have reached December. So we're almost in the 20th of December somehow, because I remember when. So anyway, we decide to go. We make the decision. So we only take one suitcase with us. Remember how many suitcases we had?
5.
5. So we entrusted our other suitcases to a couple of students, Persian students, who used to study in Istanbul. They were at Istanbul University. So we trusted them, which I wish we hadn't. We should have trusted the hotel manager more than them. And so they took our suitcases to their place, and we said, whenever we have reached Sweden, we'll send you an address. Just ship everything to us. Obviously, we'll pay for it, but just ship everything to us.
Okay.
So anyway, obviously they didn't, and there was a lot of family heirlooms in there. But for some reason, my mom managed to carry our family albums, so our albums survived. So here we go with one suitcase and just our handbags. We take the flight. So we take the flight to Poland, and imagine, like, we're talking about a communist country airline. It wasn't like the lot you travel on today.
No.
It was different. I remember the seats were yellow, like literally
It's still lot though, right?
I don't know what it was called at the time. I can't, but I remember it was yellow. The seats were yellow, like literally taken from Mad Men. That's how the chairs look like. And I think we were the only passengers on the plane because don't forget, again, a communist country did not allow people to travel, right? So only like officials or something. And I think there was 1 or 2 Polish men on the flight, and one of them was super drunk. Like he was super drunk, I think.
Yeah.
Like super drunk. So imagine, like we have flown all our lives in like big planes, and you know, 2-story planes, and then we come to this plane, and it actually doesn't have engines. It has these
Such a scary sight. God.
I was like, are we even going to survive the flight?
Yeah.
Forget about getting there. So
you laugh about it now, but it's stressful. It
was so stressful. I was like, what is this? But I had never flown on such a plane my whole life. I don't think my mom had either. So here we sit on these like freaking like a toy plane. And I can't remember, because I loved airplanes and airports, I think I was just excited. But again, I was really stunned by how old everything looked. Like the seats and everything. I remember, but that's why the picture is so like literally so carved vivid in my memory, because it was the yellow, and I remember the floor was like some thick brownish carpet. Like it was really different. Anyway. So when we wanted to land, this was the best part. When we landed, as you know how when you land, there is like this massive break, and then and then you speed up. Any chair, all the chairs that did not have passengers in them, they all fell forward.
What? What?
It was like, what? Talking about passenger safety. So it was like, so anyway, we landed in Warsaw, thank God, in one piece. And
just stopped just in time.
Just on time. Now, the good news is that we actually didn't come through this journey alone. We had 2 other, again, single men with us. And these guys had left Iran legally because they had done military time.
Okay.
So if you did military time in Iran, you could apply for passport.
Okay. So you felt protected then?
Of course. Like imagine my mom, like she's like, obviously, and they felt like this is also a good option for them because they didn't have the kind of money to pay, 10,000, 20,000 to a smuggler to get them to other countries. Right? So they didn't have that kind of a money. Anyway, one of them, because he was financially not as well off as the rest of us, he traveled earlier by train to Poland from Istanbul.
Okay.
So he got there a day or 2 days earlier than us, and he actually so he had already got a hotel somewhere to stay, not a hotel, just somewhere to stay. And he knew obviously when we were going to arrive. So he came to meet us at the airport.
Wow. So
right?
He kind of mapped out what the place is going to be like and where to.
Yeah, like he basically got there like a couple of days earlier than us.
Yeah.
And going back to the story, when you remember how everybody would send everyone off with this really joyful send-off, because everybody knew that, okay, Sweden, they send people back. These guys are taking a road no one has taken.
Yeah.
This is a freaking disaster. I remember when our taxi, it used to come and stop. And in order for us to drive to the airport, it had to make a U-turn and then drive.
Okay.
So I remember, obviously we're talking about the time where I was sitting on my mom's lap at the front of the cab. That's how we used to do it all the time. And when we turned and made the U-turn, nobody was clapping their hands for us.
Oh,
and I remember, I started clapping my hand from the taxi and tell them, clap your hands for us too, because we're going too. Come on,
we were clapping for everyone. Why aren't you clapping for us?
They were clapping so reluctantly because we were really, really going into the unknown. It was like, are you guys nuts?
They were scared for you more than anything.
Very much so. And in those days, Iranians were huge targets. And they were because they knew, all the governments knew, like we're talking about Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, France, England, everybody knew and don't forget, we're not talking about European Union at the time. There was no such a thing. So they all knew Iranians who arrived, they're going to seek asylum. So we were literally targets. When it came to, when you are dealing with an immigration officer, you are a target.
Correct. Yeah.
So anyway, here we go. And, we have that horrid journey. We arrive there. And then as we come off the plane, I remember we come off, and this arrival hall at the airport is packed with people. Like there are like hundreds of people.
Oh, really?
And then suddenly we recognize our friend at the end. And next to him is this really pretty blonde lady.
That was quick.
Well, look at him,
Just a week, man.
Yeah, who knew? Anyway, so this poor guy said, and when he arrived, this lady was at the train station offering lodging.
Oh, okay.
So he took that, and this was so we went to this house, oh my God, I can just imagine during the time when Poland was not communist, this condo or apartment was beautiful. You know how the French style with the massive, double doors and beautiful wooden floor, high ceilings. It had like a grand piano in the living room, and you could barely feel it.
Are you serious?
I'm not. I remember I used to play on it. Anyway, so we arrived there, and I think by the time we arrived there, in a day or two, it's Christmas Eve. So, we are positive people, right? Like that's how my mom is. So we decided to go and, let's go and look at the city, because Warsaw is beautiful, right? Warsaw is beautiful. I remember walking down these massive, beautiful streets. I do remember it being beautiful, but dead, silent.
Oh, really?
Not a single soul on the streets, right? Don't forget, it's Christmas holidays as well. Because we kind of arrived right in the middle of the Christmas holiday as well.
Okay.
And I have a feeling maybe, I mean, that's how we saw it. The city was dead. But again, buildings, the boulevards, beautiful, beautiful.
And look at where you were coming from.
Right? Yeah. So here we go. And it's cold. And I remember that this lady who was the mother-in-law of the girl who was at the train station offering the lodging.
Yeah.
She had these poor people. Her son, who was the husband of the young girl, was in prison because he was charged with changing US because of exchange.
Okay.
Like these were all illegal, right? Like, so anyway,
of course.
So the poor guy was in prison. So the woman was trying to rent out so they could have money to live on. And they had like a 1-year-old or 2-year-old toddler son, like very cute baby. I remember that little baby. I remember one of the nights this lady took me to the back room of the kitchen. So I presume in the olden days, this is where the servants lived.
Right.
Because it's a back room to the kitchen. But this is where the mother-in-law had her bedroom. And she had this tiny little Christmas tree. Tiny. I remember it was this on her dresser. And she took me to show it to me.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It was very cute.
What a picture.
Yeah, right. So it was very, So, and we had come from US where Christmas trees are like, So this was very emotional to see. They had this tiny little Christmas tree. And I remember it had all these multicolored lights on it. Barely any ornaments.
Just the plain lights.
Plain lights. Anyway, so we felt cold. It was really cold in Poland, right? And so we decided to look for a store to purchase some warm clothes, like just maybe some gloves or hats or something.
Because all your belongings were gone anyway.
Well, yeah. And then we did bring warm clothes, but obviously they weren't warm enough.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we didn't have Canada Goose and
of course.
So, and we just had the regular bomber jackets, typical, or like wool coats or whatever.
Right.
And
handle like zero.
Really light. And when we lived in US, we lived in Arizona, which is like a warm state. You don't really need it. Anyway, so we kept looking, asking around, and they finally told us there is a department store here. And that was the only square I remember being busy.
Okay.
Of the couple of days that we went there.
Right.
And we went up the escalators, and my mom felt like she felt a little bit odd as we entered because it had like a funny stench.
Okay.
You know how you enter a department store, you usually smell perfume and all that.
Yeah.
But it had like a weird stench to it.
Okay.
So my mom just went on to start looking for clothes, and she suddenly felt, I think these are all like secondhand.
Yeah. Sorry, did she? So you said she felt?
So she felt like these are actually not new.
Okay.
These are secondhand. They have to be secondhand. So, and that's, to her point, that's exactly what it was.
Really?
I think this was like a 5-story department store, which I'm pretty sure in its glory must have been a beautiful department store.
Right.
But during communism, let's say 4 stories of it had turned into used clothing.
Okay.
Only one top floor had new items.
Oh.
So I remember my mom purchased a boot. I bought a hat. We purchased some items just to keep us warm. And don't forget, just the basics. And among these days, we are eating out. And we also have to change money because we have US dollars with us and we need money. And I remember, and it was illegal to do it.
Of course.
So the way we would do it at the end of our meal, my mom would she would fold the dollar and she would just put it on the side of the plate like this. And when the waiter came, and I'm talking about Sahil, when we go to the restaurant, we are the only guests.
Oh, wow. Right.
And I'm talking about restaurants that are super nice, like super high ceilings, beautiful like curtains. And another thing that we noticed in Poland was the China set that existed at every restaurant. They had the government stamp on it. So all the restaurants had the exact same dinner set.
That's weird.
Yeah, but like everybody is like, that's how it was. Socialism, right?
Yeah.
So we came to learn that after a couple of times, because it initially didn't, because the first restaurant we went to, it had that. Yeah. Then the second one and the third one, and then it kind of, so that's how it is. They're all like,
then you kind of get used to it.
Yeah. So she used to show the corner of the money like this to the waiter. And they would get it. I'm telling you, this is amazing. Some of these, how you don't need to know each other's language, but we human can understand each other. And he immediately would say, let me call my manager. And this would be a good thing, because this would be something maybe they did among them just to earn some extra money.
Right.
So we learned, because it was really dangerous to change money on the streets. And don't ask me why we did that. There has to be a reason. Maybe because I think that the amount of money that the Polish government allowed you to bring to the country was not enough. So we had to change money for just for food, just the basics, just going to a restaurant and having food.
Right. But USD was overall acceptable.
Yes, but in the black market.
Oh my God.
So we're talking about exchanging money in the black market. So exchanging money in the black market, like, how this young woman's husband had got arrested in prison, that was risky. So we did that a couple of times, but then we decided not to do it. And my mom started doing it in the restaurants. So we learned that, okay, this is the best way of doing it. It's safe and secure. So that's how we did it. Now, we decided to find out, okay, so how do we get to Gdansk or whatever? And they said, well, it's Christmas holidays, so everything is closed. So don't forget, it's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, almost 4 days of shutdown of everything.
Yeah.
So we had to wait. So we had to wait till finally the train stations, they opened, and we purchased the train ticket to come to, I think, Gdansk.
Okay.
And I remember this. I think you probably remember this part of the story where we purchased the ticket, we pack our things, and again, we have the suitcase, and then, all of us go. Now, on the train, we had booked a cabin. How you actually, where literally like Agatha Christie movies where it's a hallway and then you have got the doors that leads to the cabins that seats 6 people, or Sherlock Holmes movies, right?
Yeah. That's the picture I had in mind.
Yeah. So we have purchased the cabin.
Yeah.
But what happens is that my brother also said, told them head conductor that I'll give you $. You make sure you give us one cabin,
like a full
private.
cabin.
Full cabin, right? Anyway, it would have been a full cabin because we were 6 people. Chloe, no. There's a tiny little spot on top of the in the wall, and she's trying to scratch it.
For some reason, it sounded like someone was using a keyboard.
That's what she's doing. That's what she's doing. So, anyway, now imagine like all the passengers have been let into the train, but they're not opening these cabins for people to sit. So when we enter, so we have 2 people, we have 2 fellow passengers with us, beside us, right? So when we enter, this is like me and my mom and my sister are clinging to each other because it's like sardine packed in this tiny, you know how narrow these hallways are.
Right, yeah.
And the guy at the front just shouted to my mom, addressing my mom, just watch out for your bag because I have 4 hands in my pockets.
Oh,
so my mom had everybody's passports and dollars, right?
Yeah.
So because we were foreigners, they knew we probably carry money, right? So he literally had pickpockets in there. He's like, I have 4 hands in my pockets. That means there is no pocket spare. So anyway, we told this guy, you give us a cabin and just give us one. Because we also had to feel safe, right? And so he said, let the train leave the platform and then I'm going to open one for you. So as soon as the train opened the platform, he opened one for us and we all went in. And among all this, this big Polish lady also came and sat. And I don't know whether she was with herself on her own or whether she had her grandchild. I can't remember. All I remember, she was this big lady. And she was refusing to leave the cabin. And my brother kept telling him, I will only give you the money if this is only for us. So anyway, by some magic, we managed to push her out. And my brother said, just lock the freaking door. It's okay. We'll see you in the morning. Like, really fine.
Had enough now.
I don't know. So anyway, they locked us in and it was an overnight train. We arrived at Gdansk.
Okay.
We arrive at Gdansk, we get off and we try to look around. And we go and we book a hotel. We get into the hotel. We have something to eat. And then we start going to look around the harbor to see where the passenger boats are. Are you kidding me? This was a military harbor.
Wow.
We're talking about wires, military ships, not boats.
Yeah.
Ships.
Full ships.
Like Pearl Harbor kind of a thing. It's like, are you kidding me? How do you go to Sweden from here? This is impossible. So we went to the train station again and we said, where did and we had to act very innocent and, Like, where did the boats to Sweden leave from? Where are they? And it's like,
just nonchalant.
It's not Gdansk, it's Gdynia. And we're like, so where's Gdynia? Oh, that's like another 2 hours train trip. Now, at this point, we decided, okay, because we don't know what's going to happen, lingering along this big suitcase is a pain. So what we did, we just bought 2 bags, like literally 2 handbags from the local store, and we just only packed the essentials.
Okay.
And we left our suitcase with some other stuff in it. At the, how in olden days you could put your items, you could leave it and you would pay money and then you can come and collect it later.
Isn't that a cloakroom?
Yeah, something like that. So we left it at the cloakroom of the train station in Gdansk. So, and then we bought tickets and we made the trip to Gdynia, which was and I still confuse this. I can't remember whether we arrived first at Gdynia and then went to Gdansk or whether it was from Gdansk, but whichever way. So we made the trip. And we went and we got booked into a hotel. And what happened was my brother and the two, so me, my mom and my sister, we stayed back at the hotel. My brother and the two fellow passengers, they went looking for travel agencies to ask around about these ships. So obviously my brother was very cute. He spoke English and So, and the other two boys were obviously maybe even, considered, exotic looking for the girls. So they charmed their way to at a travel agency, and my brother came back with boat tickets. We now officially had purchased the boat tickets to Sweden.
Wow. How did you pull that?
And my mom was like, they didn't ask for visa? He said, no. So here we go. We met, because usually if you are traveling and you're a foreigner, the first thing they ask you is, do you have a visa to the country you intend to travel to? So apparently not. We got the tickets, came back. So we were super happy. And I remember it was some kind of a celebration going down at the hotel. So we went to that restaurant as we had dinner because it was during the Christmas and, New Year's celebrations. There was a massive festivity going on in the restaurant of the hotel we were in. And, people dancing, there was a band and, the typical red lights and all that. And I remember there was, obviously I was 8 or 9. And one of the gentlemen who was sitting in the next table to us, there was a family sitting there. He was drunk, but he was just trying to be nice to me, like play with me or whatever. But because he was drunk, his demeanor scared me.
Oh.
And I remember this, and I cannot believe, I don't know who this lady is, but she did probably the sweetest thing there is. Imagine this is like during the holidays.
Yeah.
I think, and I was really scared. So I think I sat like super scared where I was sitting because I kind of got scared of this, this man's like drunken behavior, although he was just trying to be nice. You know how drunk men come, oh, how are you, sweetie? Things like that.
But still, as a kid, you don't know.
As a kid, you get scared. And suddenly I just saw this lady coming back with what would be like a bag of crisps or, cheese puffs or something. And I remember it was metallic and it had a picture of an elephant on it. Like almost like a Dumbo. She had actually gone out in the cold late at night and bought me this like pack of chips or whatever just to cheer me up because I had got scared of her husband.
God bless her.
And I remember she hugged me and she kissed me and I still remember this the warm and kind smile on this woman, and her cheeks were so cold when I kissed her. That means like she had been out for quite some time to find this for me. And this is where sometimes, when people do, and you're like, no matter where you are from, people are kind to each other if you just let them.
Absolutely.
If you just let them.
And such a tiny gesture doesn't take much to.
No, and this was not something like let's say she purchased from the drugstore at the hotel. She actually had to step out of the hotel to get it.
But you still remember after all these years?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, she is ripping her. I need to rescue. Mama, get us over to So as we're having a conversation, this is what Chloe's been up to.
Is that a cushion?
That's her mattress that's inside her tepi.
Oh, it's hers. So it's okay.
But still though. So you can just imagine, like, it's okay. As soon as she doesn't have attention, this is what happens. Anyway, it's okay, Mama. She'll leave it. She'll drop it.
She's a brat.
Yeah, she's a total brat. And so anyway, we were all happy because now we had the tickets. Now, with that said, the next morning, my brother and our fellow passengers decided to take us to this day. My brother said, oh, Mom, let's not eat lunch here. Let's go and eat lunch at this nice hotel that we found, which is close to the place we purchased the ticket from. And this was this super nice 5-star hotel. Really, really nice. And my mom was like, you guys have known about this hotel for 2 days and you haven't told us. Like, are you kidding me? So I'm talking about like a top-notch 5-star hotel, which at that time, it had this beautiful glass revolving doors that would let you in, and
just fancy even today.
Like, where the ceiling has got the lights, where you come and park with the cars. Like, this was our, the hotels we had from the times I used to travel in the US. So this was like really our standard. Oh, wow. So anyway, my mom goes and she said, you guys have known about this for 2 days and we've been like cooped up in like freaking like a tiny hotel by the train station. Anyway, so we decided to go there and we decided to go when we were leaving like the next day.
I think there was some network issue there.
Oh, sorry.
No.
So we came to learn about this hotel and we were leaving the next day. So we said, okay, let's go and have dinner there. And now it's actually New Year's Eve.
Okay.
So now we're kind of happy. We got our tickets.
And this was your second or third week there?
The entire journey was only 10 days. So
10
this
days,
is like almost
second
like
week.
8 or 9 days into the
Got
trip.
it. Yeah.
Because first when we arrived, it was just in the beginning. Then we had we arrived just to find our heads, to find out. And then we had all the Christmas holidays. And as soon as things opened, we came to these places and then we purchased a ticket. So I think we were kind of in this final town about 3 days before we left.
Okay.
So we come there and we want to go for dinner. Now we all dressed up nicely, like literally dressed up. My mom wore her fur coat and all that, we fancied up. And we went to the hotel and then they said, sorry, ma'am, they had literally like uniformed guards, like really nice, with the golden stripes and all that. We cannot let anyone in because it's New Year's Eve and only people who have got special like dinner invitations or reservations can come in here. And my mom looked at the guy and said, I'm a tourist. I want to reserve a room.
She's savage. Wow.
And he said, and as soon as she said that, he said, yes, ma'am, go ahead. So
he really let you in then?
Yeah, because we said we were a tourist, and we were tourists, and we wanted to book a room.
Yeah, can't say no to that. Yeah,
because I know to that. So as soon as we said that, my mom walked up to the lobby girl, and to the reception area, and said, one double room. And when she said the price, it was like really this much of a difference from what we were paying now at the hotel we were at. So she got even more pissed with my brother. That this place was even like literally like just maybe 50 or 60 more than what we paid at that other hotel.
So you were putting us up in a dump when we could have been staying in this.
Right? So anyway, so we went there, and so my mom booked a hotel. So we went up to the room. Oh my God, it was such a luxury. It was like being in the hotels in the US. The big double beds, beautiful white sheets, fluffy pillows, and clean bath and towels. Like it was amazing. So
like
anyway,
5-star luxury.
Oh my God, all that. And imagine living kind of, the 4 months we were in Turkey, then the journey, it was like really, really nice just to be in this super nice hotel. Oh my God.
Way
and
more than
it wasn't expensive. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we went to the room, we really enjoyed it, and then we started going down. And we wanted to go and have dinner, but all the restaurants were booked because of New Year's.
Of course.
So obviously, I don't know, maybe I have some kind of a charm, or I had when I was a kid. There was this table which had I can't remember which, they were Arabic speaking, right? I don't know where they were from, whether they were from Morocco or Tunisia or Egypt. I can't remember, but they were Arabs. And when they came to know we were Iranians, they were like a couple of young men. They were all there with their girlfriends. They actually said that we should join them at their table.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So we sat at their table and we were wondering, but then my mom asked them, what do you guys do here? They were students. So they were studying there. And they
just asked you to join.
Yeah, and they were like in really nice clothes, like, tuxedos and all. And
perfect.
It was such a fun New Year's Eve party because they were giving out all these fancy hats, just like in the movies, like in the 50s when people used to wear fancy hats.
Yeah.
And there were all these fun paper kind of hats that they had. And I remember I had these hats. There were 4 or 5 of them. I had them in Sweden for months. And I used to play with them. Anyway, so, and I remember that I actually danced with this young man, one of the students, on the dance floor.
Oh, wow.
To the song, da 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 da.
That's the chicken dance thing, right?
Yeah, so we did that on the floor. And I had a ball, like I was dancing. So we were dancing away the night, having a good time. And then the following day, we asked for the cab to come and pick us up at the fancy hotel. And now to take us to the harbor. Now, obviously, the ship left, I think, 9 o'clock at night or something. So it was, and it was winter, so it would get dark soon. So we sat in the cab and it started driving. And don't forget, this cab has picked us up at a 5-star hotel. My mother is wearing a mink coat. So, and all that. Obviously, this meant if you're a foreigner, you have dollars. And this is, at the end of the day, this was communist Poland, where not everybody were well off, because obviously the government had confiscated people of their wealth and ripped them off of their wealth. So we are sitting in this taxi, and we are no longer in the city, and we're just traveling in the dark. And I'm talking about pitch dark.
Of course.
Like dark like anything. Like almost like the movies, you know how the car is driving and all you see is just the 2 lights and then the road, and the road never freaking ends. So we're like, all we're saying to each other is like, well, we hope he's taking us to the right place, because this is getting really scary. Like there is no town. This is scary. There is nothing.
Because you don't know where the hell you are. You don't know.
No, we don't know. He could take us anywhere. No, they could literally take us and kill us, and and they don't know that. He doesn't know whether I have $10,000 on me or $500 on me, right? So anyway, we are traveling in pitch dark for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, till finally we see like a strip of lights at the end of and we're like, so we started like kind of feeling a bit relaxed.
Some relief,
Some relief that, oh my God, okay, so we are reaching the destination. So another half an hour, 40 minutes till we reach. And then where we reach in the middle of this pitch dark is like a parking lot, a loading station, like almost like a tiny little, almost like when you take the ferry to the island.
Just very understated though.
Yeah, very much so. Like just like that. And then there was the ship there. Now, during this time, as we were in contact with my father, we really didn't have any conception of the kind of boat we were going to get on to go to the other side. So my father had actually told my mom to make sure you buy cognac.
Okay.
Because our perception was like a tiny fishing boat or something that's had to break the ice, and we're going to be in this, ice cold Nordic waters. Yeah. Like, and then. So
that's exactly the picture I had in mind.
Yeah. But, we were like really gearing up, and that's why we also got rid of our suitcases and everything, because we really didn't know how big of a boat we were going to get on. Don't forget, we're treading into the unknown.
Yeah.
Like no one has traveled this way before. So we are kind of worried, like, maybe we should purchase a cognac we need, or whiskey, just to keep us warm till we get there, right? Anyway, we arrived there. So the poor decent man obviously did bring us to the right destination, bless his soul. And, he didn't rob us or anything. He
course.
Was, And so we get off the station and we see that there are lineups of people to get on. Like, how you have lineups, and then you have got the little kiosks, right? And as we look around, don't forget, Polish people are blonde, right? So we are, dark haired. So we see another group of dark haired people, kind of on the corner over there. So we look at them and they look at us. We look at them and they look at us. And here's the thing. They would send one of theirs over to our side so they could hear what language we speak.
Right.
So we would stay silent. Right? Because we didn't want them to know who we are.
Want them. Yeah.
And then we would send somebody over to them to hear what language they speak, and they would be quiet. So anyway, all said and done, my mom decides to do this. So she tells our 2 fellow passengers that you stay back. Okay, I'm going to go. If they arrest me, if I don't have a visa, you guys just take a cab and go. Because at the end of the day, I'm a mother, with 3 children. They're not going to harm me, but 2 single men, you may get more in trouble than I. Like they might be more forgiving towards me trying to board a boat without a visa. Like I can play ignorant, right?
Yeah, very sensible actually.
And so these guys are standing at the back, and we are trying to reaching the kiosk, right? So there is one person ahead of us. We are the next person. Now the kiosk next to us. Now the way these kiosks are, the kiosks are like this. So the 2 lines people are actually next to each other. And there's a barrier that divides us.
Okay.
So you can really hear all the conversation of the other kiosks
on the other
side. So as we are standing in line, we would be the next person in line. One of those people with dark hair, she's standing in front of the kiosk, and the officer who's sitting in the kiosks tells her, "Visa no good."
Oh God.
So we're like, holy shit.
What the okay.
So he tells her visa no good. And as they are having the visa no good conversation, it's our turn. So these guys are having the visa no good conversation, and we are in front of the officer.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom, and all I could see, like literally, I was, when you're standing in front of a kiosk and you're tiny, only my eyes could see the officer.
Right. Yeah.
You know how in older days they used to have the mouse door, right?
Yeah.
So I could see the
so
officer.
See a little bit, just the top.
Yes, just the top. And so I could actually see the mouse door, but that's where you hand in the documents to the guy, and he's behind a shielded glass.
Correct. Yeah.
And, doing all the precautions. It was almost like a coronavirus precaution. So anyway, so he started looking in my mom's passport. And he just kept looking and looking and looking. And his face changed. And then he looked at my mom and he said, "You have visa for 15 days. Why have you only stayed for 10 days? Mom was like, well, we decided to spend the rest of the vacation in Sweden. Now, don't forget, remember I told you we were forced to exchange money in the black market because they allotted money, because this is how it was. In order to get the visa, we had got a 15-day visa. You had a certain amount of money that you were allowed to bring in.
Got it.
Let's say they consider like $10 a day would be enough. So you only had to have $150 that you were allowed to spend.
Okay.
Right? So he said, okay, so you have shown us $150 for the, I'm just talking
just a placeholder
numbers.
exam. Yeah.
And so you have only spent 10 days out of the 15 days. So I'm going to hold on to the rest of $50, which is for the remaining 5 days of visa you have. Then you can collect it on your way back. My mom said, take it.
Oh, I cannot even imagine what her relief would have been in the moment.
Oh my God. I remember
She's thinking,
my mom.
this guy's going to send us back.
Totally. Because especially with the next kiosk telling the lady visa no good. And they are they have the same coloring as us, right? Dark hair, darker skin. Anyway, so, and then all I remember, my mom was pushing me from the back, telling me, Sheyda, smile, Sheyda, smile. So I was standing on my tippy toes, like trying to smile to the officer. Anyway, so he did the stamps and everything, and we went off. And that's when we give signal to the other guys, go ahead, we got through, you guys come through. So at this day and time, my brother is going to the free shop, trying to find a cognac. My mom's like, are you kidding me? Get on the flipping ship. Just get on. Let's just get on the boat before they change their mind. So and then when we arrive, it's like a 6-story ship.
Oh, what a relief.
We had no perception. Like, as I said, like we were traveling, we had no perception. And I remember it's dark, right? So we climbed up these stairways and we came into the ship's lobby. And believe me not, we were actually hiding. We didn't even go to our cabins because we knew the passenger names they would know.
Okay.
So there is an area in the ship where you almost come. It's almost like a cloakroom. So when we came there, we went and I remember we were hiding behind suitcases.
Oh.
So they couldn't see, because we were like, what if they changed their mind? What if they realized they made a mistake? They can literally come and take us off the boat.
Yeah.
So then we decided, then what we decided to do was, you know what, let's just act normal instead. like, okay, let's just be cool.
Mhm.
So we went to one of the restaurants at the ship, and we sat down and we started ordering dinner.
Hmm.
And I remember, because we had been so cold and nervous, I do remember ordering soup. We ordered soup. And we were just nervous for this boat to leave, because if we were like, what if they changed their mind? What if they changed their mind? This was constantly on us. Like, they're probably going to, you know, do a walkie-talkie and they're going to get us, because, you know. So as we're sitting there, super nervous, a lot of anxiety, trying to eat dinner, but obviously it's just not going down, because you're so nervous.
You just want to reach the destination.
And at the same time, you're relieved because you have literally come so far. Like, you know, we're on the boat and on our way to Sweden. And so what we did was, we asked the waitress when we had our soup and we wanted to order the main course. And my brother asked the waitress, when will the boat leave? Like, seriously, when will we actually leave? She said, oh, we left an hour ago.
So you were moving?
So we were moving. That was it. It was the end of it. Like, we were moving.
Oh my God.
So finally, after dinner, we started talking with the same group of people. We were we were trying to, you know, not disclose each other to one another, right?
Of course.
So we came to know, they were a group of 10 people, and they were Iraqis.
Okay.
We were Iranians, they were Iraqis. Imagine our countries are at war.
Yeah.
And among this 10 people was one Iraqi guy who was a resident of Sweden. So I remember this so clearly, Sahil, because I don't know if you traveled on ships, but they do have a lot of lobbies that have got, you know, carpets on them.
I've never been on a ship, actually.
Like, so they have wall-to-wall carpets on a lot of the rooms in the ships. So I remember clearly in one of these middle rooms, right? Like, you know, we were all sitting in a circle, like, you know, like Red Indians. We were all sitting in a circle, and we were all listening to this guy who lived in Sweden, Iraqi. Yeah. And he said he actually had helped, like, a lot of people, Iraqi people, to seek asylum in Sweden through this route. Oh. So he gave us the confidence that, don't worry, this is going to work. I have done this 3-4 times. So he had a group of 9 people with him. He probably was charging these people, right?
Right, of course.
And I remember my mom had a raincoat that this Iraqi lady, the same person who had to face visa no good, she had no clothes, so she was cold, and my mom gave her raincoat to her to wear.
Oh my God.
And we exchanged phone number with that other Iraqi guy who was a resident. He gave us his number because we had nothing.
Yeah.
And so we were going to call him up on arrival, and then my mom was going to get her raincoat back. Like, again, that was a meeting that also happened, by the way. Right. Anyway, so we arrive the next day. Now, this is January 2nd, 1984 now. So we rang in the new year, 1983, and, you know, with a lot of fun, and we arrived. So don't forget, I'm a 9-year-old, and all I can think about is you have to land on a soil in order to be accepted as a refugee.
Right. Yeah.
So we come down the stairs, and everything is asphalt. So I'm telling my mom, there is no soil here. We are on an asphalt. Like, there is no soil.
I understand that concern as a 9-year-old.
Like, I am like, there is no soil. It's like asphalt. Are you kidding me? They're not going to accept us.
Oh my God.
So we stand in line, and what we decide to do is, so as we came, this police officer, like, I cannot tell you like how grateful I am to Sweden and the Swedish people for, you know, embracing Iranians and Iraqis at that time of need and showing so much love to us and, you know, taking us into their homes.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we got up there, my brother said, we're seeking asylum. To this super cute elderly police officer, Swedish police officer, who always, his demeanor reminded me of my grandfather, because my grandfather was a blue-eyed, fair, like, you know, very,
right.
You know, he would always, people always thought he's Swedish because, you know, especially when he had white hair and all. So it was like, his kind and gentle smile, he said, just sit at the back there. I'll deal with you after all the passengers are gone. So
how old was your brother then?
He was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of went there. They went through our bags, and funny enough, imagine among all the things that we bring with us, among all the things that we leave behind, in our we literally arrived with 2 handbags. When he was looking into our bag, he came across a foot scrub.
A what?
A foot scrub.
Oh my God.
It's a very Persian. It's like a black. It's like a black, almost like a. It's like a black foot scrub. It's a footstone. Like it's a scrub. It's black.
Yeah, I know what I know.
And its shape is funny, right?
Yeah.
So he looks at it and he wonders what it is. And my brother's like, how on earth am I going to explain to this guy that we scrub our feet with this? So he goes, oh, because I study science. This is one of my science projects.
Conversation though. God.
So the police officer just smiled and put it back.
He's laughing too, yeah.
Laughing too. And then we got what they did to us. They called a translator to come in via phone.
Okay.
They interviewed my mom and my brother only. So my sister and I were underage, so we would not be eligible. But they interviewed them separately to hear the story, right? We had really nothing to hide. Like we had all the documents.
Of course.
Our visa did not hold a false, visa in it.
It's all as per the process.
Everything was like legal. They could see that, because usually what happens when you seek asylum, everybody gets rid of their identity.
Of course.
And that's why it takes such a long time for you to prove who you are, how you came, where you come from, who, and all that. But all the documents were on the paper, right there in front of them. And I remember that then it was late at night then, by the time the interview was over, we had a police car that came and they took us to this beautiful bed and breakfast in a city, in a city on the outskirts of Stockholm called Nynäshamn. And it was gorgeous. Like, again, it was so Swiss, right? Like for us, it was so Swiss. Like it was beautiful surrounding. And it was late at night. They brought us into this bed and breakfast. And the police officers wouldn't even let us to carry our bags. They actually carried our bags into our rooms.
You are kidding.
And they checked us into this super cozy bed and breakfast. And the host and hostess, they were amazing. And I remember the next day, the local newspaper came to interview us.
Wow.
And we have a picture at the front page. My brother has that newspaper and the picture. And I'm wearing the same hat we bought in Poland.
He still has that paper?
Yeah, we still have that paper.
I want a picture of that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see if he has it. We can find it. Wow. Because we were the first Iranians to arrive to Sweden via this route.
So that's how big that was for them.
And the fact that
the kind of welcome you got.
Very much so. And the fact that we had entered legally. We were no human smuggler brought us. We did not have a false visa in our passport. We did not hide our identities. And I remember we put our passports on the table as well. So our Iranian passports are in the photo. Like we all entered legally.
Yeah.
And that was it. We arrived in Sweden. And within 23 days, we got our permanent residency.
What a story. Holy mother of Jesus. What a story. I mean, I have my movie script now ready to go.
Wow.
So you are now giving your release. I have hundreds of follow-up questions. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
And I think, first of all, thank you for sharing every bit of the story with me. It was
my pleasure. And I think it's you know what, I think it's time we Iranians start talking about our journeys, because we shy away from it. And
course.
So many of us have had heroic stories to bring us to where we are today, especially those of us who left in the 70s and the 80s, even up to the 90s. The ones that kind of, once the Iran and Iraq war was over, things went back more to normalcy, you can say, and many Iranians actually came to Canada, or even went, we even have people that are going to States through a much more convenient way. They get permanent residency, they get student visas, they get, they don't really go through the same trauma, to the point where I have seen people even bringing their pets with them as they come to this country.
Right.
I don't think even those Iranians have got a notion about what we went through, our generation went through when we left Iran, right?
And there are more like official channels now, and so I'm assuming it's much easier now.
Absolutely. The fact that now Iranians don't forget the time when we came, the borders were closed. They just opened the border for a certain amount of time to let people, you don't like it here, leave. I don't want you here either. Right? And this was a big message to academics as well, right? They didn't want it. Which usually we do have an expression for it among Iranians where it says the escape of the brains or the escape of intellects.
Right.
And that's why so many, educated people left the country, and you're left with just a bunch of, uneducated, backward people where culturally, obviously, you can see it 40 years down the line, how back it has taken this, a civilized society, I would say.
Like thrown it back by like 100
oh my God, by
years.
150 years. Like literally we're back in dark ages when it comes to, mentality and the way they're thinking about things. But again, that's another story. But in general, I think more and more Iranians should speak because, and really not paint, but I think really show the people in the world for what this tyrannic regime really is. Because a lot of people think that, looking at what foreign policies are trying to do, they really expect to do reform in Iran. There's no such a thing as reform. It needs to be a complete coup. That you can't, it's like you cannot reform Nazis.
Right.
They are who they are, and they are what they are. Like like you're going to bring them and talk and, bring them onto a table to negotiate. It's like, are you kidding me? So, and I think it's because it's we Iranians, we owe it to our country and to our history, to our heritage to speak up.
Of course.
And share our experiences so people in the West can really see us. And I think slowly people are starting to see that the regime is different from the people.
Of course.
But I think more and more people need to come up and, just speak up about it. Just not enough people are speaking up. And even like, you don't really need to have a political motivation to do it. It's just like you're sharing your human story, right? And then the terror that everyone has gone through, right? Like we were lucky, we were among the ones that we did not go through the bombings that happened. There was right at the end of the war, there was a lot of, because initially the war was only happening at the borders. Then initially, but towards the end of the war, there were a lot of rockets that were hitting Tehran and, vice versa, hitting Baghdad. So my cousins who are in their 30s, they experienced that.
My God.
Right? So to the point where the very first New Year, we took the kids out to watch the fireworks. My youngest cousin, we couldn't control the poor thing. She was hysterical. She thought she thought we were being bombed. Just hearing the fire, because it's exactly like fireworks. Like a lot of people who haven't seen it, when a town is bombed, it's like fireworks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that was it. Like it took us a long time for us to the trauma this 4-year-old had gone through to take shelter and scream and cry. On New Year's Eve, it was. I can never forget that. I can never wipe that. And I'm like, we need to share more. People need to know more. That I think,
And I think that we are also like, I know a lot of people are paying a lot of attention to the Syrians these days, but Iranians and Iraqis, we went through the same.
Exact same.
But we just didn't get the same exposure because we didn't have the social media platforms to share our stories, right?
The kind of coverage that this is getting, for instance.
Yeah, right. Like and also the fact that you didn't have private accounts too, because right now you share these things, right? But at the same time, like, I don't think I could share my story on Instagram if I was trying to run away.
Of course not.
That would be quite a giveaway.
So, yeah. All that. Yeah. No. I think now that I think about this, I feel like we have kind of our generation or where we come from. Maybe we were living under a rock. We were cocooned, had comfortable lives. We can't even imagine what you guys went through. And we used to read about this in the papers. And I still remember, I have a very vivid memory about this particular headline, boat capsizes. I cannot forget that. That's a very common headline that we used to read, and call it ignorance or what you will. It's not like we didn't pay attention to it, but we didn't know the human side of the things.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away. I don't even know how to react to this. I think I've lived vicariously through those 4 months, which literally sounds like a lifetime, when you were in Istanbul, and then how you got to Sweden. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing your
Oh my God, thank you for letting me
mind-blowing
share.
story with me.
Thank
And
you
I,
for
like I
letting me
said, I
share
have a
it.
lot of follow-up questions. Here's what I think we should do. We should
Sure.
make it a part 2.
Sure.
I would absolutely love that. I didn't even get to asking you so many things, and because this alone is, I'm going to watch this a couple of times, I can tell you that. And I wanted to, in fact, ask you if you were comfortable sharing all of this on
Oh,
like a public platform.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because as I said, I think we Iranians, we're way too, I think, culturally, we don't like to share when we have been through difficult things, or we have done things that we think are, oh, it's too obvious, like we really shouldn't share. But I really think we do need to be, as I said, I think we are obliged to the next generation.
Yeah.
And also obliged, it's history, right?
Of course.
And it's that other side of the coin, as we say. Because if we who experienced it, if we don't share our stories, then historians are going to write about it in whichever way they want.
They can fudge any information.
Exactly. And it's been a lot of hardship. Like, people have gone through so much. Like, for those Iranians who left Iran 30 years ago, 40 years ago, for us, it's almost nearing 40 years since we left Iran. Right? And it's been 36 years, since that story.
Yeah.
It's a long, long time.
Absolutely.
And now I really think it's time people speak up. There has been a couple of movies made. There has been some, but I still think people look at it more as a fairy tale more than a reality. And there are so many other stories entwined in this. Like, the pain people have gone through, some of the losses people have gone through, right? Losing loved ones, so many families that, split up because of this.
Yeah.
I know of way too many families that split up because of this, right? So many homes crushed.
Yeah.
Like, so it needs to be told. And I think
100%.
it's, and I see it for myself, I think, like, especially people of my age, my generation, going back to our parents, that, they were courageous and they actually really saved us
100%.
from this tyranny. Because I look at people that are living in Iran now, and I'm so grateful to be where I am. So is Chloe.
So is Chloe.
Because, the fact that you have, the smallest freedom that we take advantage of, like, I think the most, I would say, basic freedom is just wearing what you want to wear. wear your hair the way you want to wear, and wear makeup if you want to wear it.
Yeah.
These are, you can't do that. It's forbidden.
I don't think
forget about now that things have changed, but even now there are some restrictions and people are trying to, chocolate coat it, I would like to say it.
Right.
It's not. Kids are still getting arrested for wearing a certain type of clothing.
Yeah.
Or it's like it's
still happening.
Still happening. And I'm talking about, this is the most basic human right that we don't even think about every day when we leave home.
No. And also because, like I said, I mean, people don't even know the other end of the spectrum.
No.
So we complain about the most basic shit. The TTC is bad, and also
the TTC is bad, right? Honestly.
Okay, sure.
I think TTC needs to go and take some private lessons in Sweden and in London. Please do.
But no, but like, I feel like me personally, I haven't even gone through anything remotely as grave as this. And just to know that your parents, by the way, the optimism, it's like, in a way, it's like manifesting the fact that we will get out of this.
Yeah. Well, my mom was the true champion, right? She did this all on her own, right? Because my dad was back in Iran, right? And sometimes I feel like a lot of people say, oh, why didn't he follow? I sometimes feel like maybe if he was with us, we would have been more of a target. Because only because my mom was with us, I think we came as far as we came. I have a feeling if my dad had been with us, we would have been noticed more, and we may have not come this far.
It's very interesting.
I mean, sometimes when you look at it, I've never actually been upset with my dad that he didn't come with us.
Of course.
But now when I look at it, as a matter of fact, when you look at it, it's a good thing he didn't come with us, because a lot of families who left together the way we did, they were more under suspicious.
Of course.
Or suspicion, right? Like, so in one way, I think it was better because we were not that much kind of
worked out
visible, it kind of worked out better.
Stars aligned is how I can explain your story, literally at every step of the way.
But it was nerve-wracking. Those 10 days, it was nerve-wracking because honestly, Sahil, we moved towards complete unknown. It was like, here we come.
Yeah.
And then there was no other way. And when we arrived, we actually, by the time we reached our hotel, that beautiful bed and breakfast kind of a countryside, we called our hotel and said we arrived. We were in Sweden. They accepted us. We're all good. And right. And I think I remember that this place we were at, this house or villa was on top of a mini hill. And down the hill, it was a lake. And there was a, what do you call these wooden things that are on the water? Where you can take where you kind of go on deck. Yeah, kind of almost like that. And I remember the next day, I just went out and I started playing on this outdoor, and I was standing on this wooden platform when my mom called me and said, "It's your dad." Like, so, and I ran up the hill. It was so much like a movie, right?
It's
like
so surreal.
You're like standing there and taking in this beautiful view.
It is.
The trees, the lake, the serenity, and I don't know as a child what went through my head, but all I can know is that that's definitely one moment that obviously hasn't been erased from my memory, because it was like, and I know it was a sunny day. It was a sunny day, and the grass was yellow because it was burnt from the cold. And you had the trees and the lake, and then my mom comes and she calls me from the top of the hill. It's literally like a Sound of Music moment. And then I kind of run up the hill to go and talk to my dad who's on the phone.
That feeling can never leave you, and it shouldn't.
No.
I think. No. Oh man, we need to do a part 2. I have about 1,000 questions, and let's plan it out offline.
Yeah, totally. Let's do that.
Thank you for like I keep saying this, thank you for sharing such a heartwarming story.
Oh, no, of course. Thank you for allowing it to happen. But I just want to end this with, my family and I are and we're always forever be grateful to Sweden.
Of course.
For embracing us and letting us into the country. But then I never forget the kind ladies in Poland either, the landlady who we kind of lodged with them when we arrived, taking me to show the Christmas tree. Despite the fact we didn't speak each other's language, just, for her looking into my eye and smiling and, or the lady who went out in the cold and got me. These are like some unforgettable moments that just stick with you. And it just shows, we're all human, we're all kind if the world would just let us.
Yeah, doesn't take much.
It really doesn't take much. And although there are a lot of things that are happening in the world that I definitely do not agree with, and I think it's it really goes against my grains when I see the free world going through some of the things. Even now, exactly. It blows my mind, right? So definitely. I just hope more people like me come up and speak up and share their story, because I think it's important for the world to know what we Iranians went through. Yeah. The ones that those of us who left, 30, 40, 20 years ago, like we went through a complete different story. Of course. Than the rest, because we really fled Iran under a huge tyranny. 100%. Right? So a lot of people risked their lives, to be honest with you, Sahil. A lot of people did. I think at every step of the way, at every hurdle that you were in any city, when there were people, officers coming in to check, that alone, I was pulling my breath just listening to that. Yeah. So honestly, I think you also, it also takes a lot of courage to speak up about it. If I had gone through something like this, I don't think I would have been comfortable even talking about it. So. Oh no, you would. You totally would. Trust me, because it's what made you, right? Yeah. It's a part of you, and that's why to me it's just so alien. I mean, I know obviously it's because I find it very. This is something I'm trying to learn, is that not everybody, a lot of people have had very settled lives, right? Right. Where you lived in the same house for 30 years, and then, just going to the story, like you lived in the same house till you grew up, then you left for university, your parents are still living in that same house, in that same town, you still have got the same people, same relatives, same friends. Unfortunately for us Iranians, my generation, we don't have that. Of course. Yeah. Right? We don't have that home to come to, right? We just don't. It's very nostalgic for me when I think about it. Yeah. Like, how we see Christmas movies or other movies where this person is going home after 5 years, 6 years, 2 years, and they have, I don't have that. Yeah. Right? Because I've had to move from country to country through my life. And the circumstances also have not allowed me. So the only thing closest to going home for me is actually Sweden. Yeah. And which is exactly what I want to dive into when we chat next, because part two, and I don't know how many parts are going to be, but we'll see how it goes. Because Sweden is fantastic. Change your life. Honestly, Sweden is fantastic. It gave you life. Oh, absolutely. It gave me life, and it gave me courage. Right? Because I think if I would have lived in Iran, I don't think I would have been as courageous as I am now, because the tyranny silences you, right? And over time, you become, obviously, it does have its impact. But it shaped you. Totally. But then you come to Sweden, in a country where you don't even address somebody older than you in a formal way. Like in a country where you address your teacher by the first name. That was huge for me. Right? Oh, I only have to address her by her first name. Yeah. Right there and then, it breaks everything in your head that means all the shackles. Yeah, everybody is equal.
Yeah.
Right? She's a human, he's a human, you're a human. Everybody has got the same right. Everybody has got the same voice. You have got to, you have got the right to voice your opinion, and he or she has got the voice to their opinion.
Yeah.
But voicing opinions, I don't think means that you should be against each other. You could just agree to disagree, and that's it, right? And that's what a true, I really lived in true democracy, let's put it that way, where everybody had the right to speak up, and everybody had the right to voice their opinion, and at the end of it you would just take a vote, and that would it, and you would respect that vote, right?
That's literally the definition of democracy,
right? Which unfortunately we are seeing crippling these days.
If that could be a whole different episode. But we'll connect soon, and we'll
let me know. Just let me know a day or two in advance, just in case.
Cannot wait.
Say bye to Saya? You want to say
Chloe.
bye?
Bye, Chloe.
You want to say bye? You want to say bye?
I love her.
She's very cute.
Yeah.
She's very cute. Okay.
Bye. Thank you again, Sheyda.
No worries. Thank you.
Speak
Give
to you
my
really
love to
soon.
Shreya. Yeah.
I absolutely will. We'll speak to you super soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Take care. Bye.